Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Golden Moments. I'm Bruce Howard. We take you back to the early 1960s, where an underrated and unknown University of Tulsa track team stunned the Missouri Valley Conference. TU won 2 straight in the early 60s, and here's a look at that era. The current University of Tulsa track program under head coach Steve Gully is in good hands with championship teams and championship individuals aplenty. But it was not always that way. Especially in the early years, track was just an afterthought. However, in the early 60s, Coach Ted Ballard injected life into the program with recruiting.
Yeah, when we arrived, the TU program hadn't been much for many years. I don't know, maybe it was sometime back in the past, but I think there was four to six guys on the team.
Well, track in the early 60s was sparse, I'd say, to say the least. I think it would have been easy to not even have a track team, but I admire Glenn Dobbs for his vision. I think he wanted to have all sports represented.
Coach Ballard was not a full-time coach, but he added the necessary components.
We had one coach. This was not the day where you had more than one coach, so we had one coach, and he was the athletic trainer.
Coach Ballard was, like he said, a trainer. And he recruited a bunch of Tulsa boys.
But he was the one and only coach, and he did know a lot about conditioning, and so he helped us in that regard, and he drove us pretty hard, I would say.
Coach Ballard, for a guy that was not a track coach, who had been thrown a position, to recruit what he did and do what he did was pretty amazing.
There was a track in Skelly Stadium, and there was a north stands, and the track went under the stands. It was a cinder track, and everything was cinder in those days. This was before synthetic tracks.
Well, the track went behind the north stands. So the runners, as you run around there, totally disappeared, to the stands, and then they came out. And there was a lot of things went on back there underneath the stands too. You could get really bumped around.
We were under that old stadium built in the 20s or 30s, Skelly Stadium. Dank, dark, old showers.
It was a hard track. It was a dirty track. And you had to really like it to be there. If you wanted to come out for track, you were on the team in those days because there wasn't that many people.
So Coach Ballard continued to cobble together the track program. In 1959, the Hurricane was a non-factor in the conference meet with only 2 performers who scored 10 points. But by 1961, and no one knew it at the time, TU was ready to challenge for a Missouri Valley Conference title.
In those days, the Missouri Valley Conference meet was kind of the high point of the year.
Well, I don't think any of us went up there, or our coach, with the idea that we would win the meet. I don't think we even had those thoughts.
And up until that point, I don't think any of us had any notion that we could win that conference meet.
Drake was by far the favorite. We were picked to come in last, and Drake was the winner from the year before.
The TU was basically a nobody in track. It never had been, apparently.
Everybody was taking points in the events. I think just about everybody scored, and we scored, I believe, in every event other than the 2-mile and the 440.
I don't think any of us had any notion that we could win that conference meet.
So the meet went on, and there was a rainstorm.
The mile relay was over, and the track meet was essentially over, and it was after midnight, and the pole vault was still going on.
We kind of figured out that Drake and us were just literally tied. It was down to the pole vault.
So there were 2 guys left in the pole vault, Smoot and a guy from Drake.
It was Dave Smoot, the sophomore, the new kid, versus the last year's champion from Drake.
And the way it was going to work was that if they tied, Drake would win the meet. So Smoot had to win as a sophomore, and he knew it.
Back in the day, there was a comedian named Brother Dave Gardner. He was a Southern comedian. We used, like I said, a lot of comedy out of Brother Dave's stuff, that our routines that we spiel at each other something. He would say, don't scare none of me, referring to a competitor.
Dave, he would say loudly, "Don't worry, guys, I will win this." He just kept working on that other guy's brain, I think.
That night, as I was passing by him there, he said that little saying about, "Don't scare none of me," referring to that Drake guy. And I just remember that, because that was our saying.
Dave Smoot went first on the vault, but he cleared that bar with his sweats on, just to psych the other guy out, and the other guy never, both of them had been higher than that, but the other guy never cleared the bar, and we were the winner by less than a point. That's just the kind of competitor he was. He wasn't going to lose. I don't care how high they had to gone, he would have won it.
It was interesting to watch him. I mean, he just seemed to be have every bit of confidence that he could, and he did. And we won that meet by 5/6 of a point.
We were pretty excited and just blown out that it happened, but I do believe we had to get in the cars and drive back to Tulsa.
That night, you know, it was just incredible the way our little team, unknown.
Just unbelievable. Unbelievable and everybody contributed. You know, everybody got points somewhere in the meet, so, you know, there wasn't anybody that didn't contribute.
So the Hurricane won the NVC championship in track. And what do you do for an encore? Well, you go out and win it again, and they did in 1962.
In our second championship year, it was different in that we were I don't know whether the newspapers thought we were the favorite, but we did, and our coach Ballard did. So it was a different environment.
The second time we won, we had 15 people there and 13 of them scored, and we only won by 7 points. Drake was a 30-point favorite that year.
62, I just don't think wasn't the same build-up, because the pole vault ending the way it did that first year was more memorable, I think.
We thought we could do it, and we did. I mean, we were happy and we celebrated, but it wasn't anything like that first year.
We had seen Coach Ballard do so much for us, and we really wanted to win that meet for him. And that was our pitch to the team that night when we got together. We said, you know, this guy's done a lot for us, and we could win this meet. We should win it for him. And we did. And those were probably the high points in 60s track history.
The 1961 and 1962 TU track teams, unsung, somewhat unknown, but no question a golden moment in University of Tulsa athletic history.